What's going on? So today we're going to be doing an engagement campaign. For those that don't know, an engagement campaign acts to bring users over to your page by DMing you from your ad, and there's a prompt that literally says send message. So what a lot of people do will use this to do DM trigger words. So DM me this and I'll send you over some free information. Usually then you'll send over a lead magnet. You'll at least try to spark a conversation because Instagram has become the platform for online sales. You can literally even use this to funnel in traffic from YouTube, and you could set up a custom audience like I'll show here today on how you can target engagers. So theoretically, if someone comes from YouTube, shoots you a follow, or looks through some of your content, they can then be hit with your engagement campaign and potentially be sold onto your offer. Now, if you haven't watched my last video over building a traffic campaign, I encourage you watch that. I'm going to put a prompt up on screen now to go watch that. Now, the importance of that traffic campaign is essentially to set up our top of funnel. And what I mean by that is something that's job is to bring in new faces that are in our ideal target audience. So traffic campaign also couples to add new followers onto your account. So today, this engagement campaign we're doing is more so a middle of funnel model because it works best on higher intent leads that already know a little bit more about who you are and the offer that you have. So the idea is to have the traffic campaign to get bodies through the door, top of funnel, and then middle of funnel is now the retargeting campaign we're doing, and then bottom of funnel is sales in the DMs and getting them onto a sales call for that cash collected. Another thing that I wanted to do today is show you guys a bit of analytics before we get started so you have an idea of what I mean when I'm talking about an engagement campaign is a little more expensive. So how engagement campaigns work, you'll get charged per result. More so, the best metric you need to look out for is how expensive the cost per result is because this is the cost per message started. So here's a couple example screenshots I took for my clients' accounts, and it kind of just shows what we need to go for as far as identifying a winning creative. To give you guys an idea, if you have a cost per result, aka a cost per new message started, that's over $10, you need to shut it off because it's likely not a winning ad creative. Granted, assuming you have spent at least $100, because again, I've said this in the last video, I'll say it in this video, and I'll say it in the video after. You cannot get emotional with ad spend. If you're killing a campaign off a $50 spend, it wasn't able to show its true colors. So what I'm going to show you here today is how to interpret information so you can actually decide if you need to kill a campaign or if it needs to cook up a little more to actually see if it's successful or not. So for cost per results here, if you have something that's $5, $6, that's good. That's what I would consider something to keep running. Now, granted, these two here are absolute money shots of screenshots because we got them under $5. And we did this because we stayed simple. One thing that's very important to note too, and it's funny because it's usually rookies that are making this mistake. You're thinking too hard about your ad script, or you're thinking too hard about the copy or the visuals, how it looks. Mind you, on both of these, it's extremely simple. So this one specifically, we've got a still frame, and this one, it's a guy in front of a whiteboard. So if that doesn't tell you these can be simple, then I don't know what. But another thing is still frames are going to be a little cheaper and more affordable, and you'll get better results typically as long as you frame them so they're more straightforward. And then as long as you have an ad that's under 30 seconds, like this one's like 17, then you're golden there too. Do not try to post an ad and have it be over a minute long, or you're going to be dropping a bag just to get it out because Meta works based off of a bidding model as far as ad spend goes. So for longer videos, they expect you to pay more to push that out because the longer a user watches, the cost per result can increase. And another reason it can increase is because it's hard to find people that are actually going to sit through an entire ad. So if Meta finds someone that does, they could theoretically try to target other people that specifically will sit through that whole ad, but end up burning through your ad spend to try to figure that out. And one final thing to note, as you can see here, off of $173, we've generated 58 leads. So once they come through the ad part of the funnel, then we have an AI appointment setter nurture them, handle them, and book them onto a sales call for us. So for this client specifically, we're currently doing $30 booked calls, meaning he's putting in 30 bucks and he's getting outputted an actual booked call. And on a $3,000 offer, he's able to get his return on ad spend extremely quickly at a massive multiplier. And same with this guy. So this screenshot was specifically taken when he got his first sale. He literally did, it's backwards. He literally did a 7.4x return on ad spend. So like the proof is in the pudding. If you got high ticket, this is the place to be. You have to have buying power up front. Scared money don't make money. So like if you're willing to put up money and you do it with strategy and you don't just blindly throw shit at a wall and expect it to stick, this is how you make money consistently online. specifically using Instagram as the sales fulfillment platform to get those bodies online and onto booked calls with you. And another thing, this applies to big and small creators. If anything, bigger creators are going to get better overall results because when new users come over to the account, they already have a massive account, so there's a lot more immediate credibility. But the key to making those crazy numbers like you see online, 50K a month, 100K a month, is definitely a good mix of coupling organic content with paid content and having proper ad targeting in there. So I'll show this in Ads Manager here in a second, but what you're going to do in order to pull out specific rows of data, because Meta hides some of the rows that we may need to look at in order to indicate a winner. So you scroll all the way to the right on the campaign and you click this little plus button. It'll open this text box prompt and you click Customize Columns. Once you're in Customize Columns, there are three things you need to bring up, and they're either going to be already in your column selected row or you're going to go have to find them. If you have to find them, let's say CTR wasn't clicked. You just check it and it's going to show up at the bottom, and you could just click here on one of these nodes. This is a screenshot, but you click here on one of these nodes and you can move it up so you can organize the columns in order. So these are the money making analytics that you have to look at. So CPC is cost per click. Granted, for an engagement campaign also, cost per message started, like I just went on a huge tangent about, is also very significant, but that's an automatically added column. These are addition columns as well. So cost per click, we're going to want that to be about $1 to $2. So anything under $1 is cash money all day. Click-through rate, a realistic click-through rate. So this is people that are actually scrolling and they stop. So up here, for instance, 1.91% of people are scrolling and then stop on our post. 1.45% of people are scrolling and then they stop to actually watch our ad. So for a DM conversion campaign, it's about 1 to 3% CTR that we're going to look at to know we got a decent campaign. And finally, CPM, as it says right here, it's cost per 1,000 impressions. So how much money does it take to make a genuine impression on 1,000 different people? So this is usually going to be kind of pricey with a DM campaign. So anything between 10 and 20 bucks is good. Once it's over 20 bucks, then your ad gets a little expensive. But again, if you're running high ticket, you could still get away with it. And then a little bonus one is link clicks. So link clicks can also be separate from actually having a message started, right? So what I mean by that is, let's say you have a send message campaign. One of the link clicks is, yes, clicking send message. So that's how we've incurred, in some of the other examples, like 50 new messages started, for instance, right? But let's say of those 50 new messages started, we'll have 43 unaccounted for. Where are those link clicks going? They're either going to our profile, they're either clicking send message, but then backing out, in which we can retarget that too. But clicking send message, backing out, engaging comments also counts as a lead click, or if they click the little three dots at the top of the ad itself and look into something there, that's also a link click. All right, so now we're in Ads Manager. So with everything I just explained up to this point, definitely save that information, write it down, or come back to this video in a week after your ad campaign is ran so you can interpret with the analytics that I just explained. But yeah, now we'll actually get into building this thing. So first off, you're going to go into a custom audience. And I'm doing this to teach you guys how to set up a specific retargeting. So you're going to click create custom audience, and then we're going to run it through Instagram. All right, so here we're going to create a retargeting campaign on anyone that engaged with our profile or our ad in general. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So you just click this drop down here. So these are engagers. So we'll denote this as engagers on the audience name. We're going to shrink this down because 365 is way too broad. I usually like to do 30, 60 days. We'll do 30 days for this one. So 30-day engagers. All right, cool. And that's literally all we need to do for custom audiences for now. So now it's time to actually build a campaign. So go back to campaigns. Click this create box right here. Now we're going to be doing an engagement campaign. So click the one with the messages here. Click continue. If you remember from my previous video, we are not going to be doing Advantage Plus at any situation where we have the option to do manual so that we have the most freedom to put in our inputs and have more autonomy behind what we want to do. Otherwise, we're allowing Meta to do it. And granted, Meta does have a great algorithm, but essentially, when we're allowing them to do Advantage Plus, we're essentially paying for Meta's algorithm to keep self-learning on our dime. Because every time they have a new breakthrough or find a new target audience for us, it very, very slightly improves their algorithm. Now, if you can imagine on a mass scale, hundreds of millions of dollars going into Meta ads, and we are paying for the algorithm to improve. So they have a great algorithm, don't get me wrong. And as you'll see here in a second, we still have so many places where Meta forces us to use their algorithm. So with the very limited manual inputs we're allowed, I like to use them. All right, so on the fresh campaign, there's going to be three different sections. There's going to be campaign level, there's going to be ad set level, and there's going to be creative level. Campaign level is the overarching level in which the entire creative is controlled, and then we can actually duplicate and set up different ad sets. And here we can get more granular about doing target audiences and have them still be overarching within the same campaign itself. And as you can see here, when you duplicate it, you can even kind of see how within this folder, there's now these two, and then these are subsets as well. So we only need one for the sake of this video, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. Anyways, so as of right now, there's nothing we need to change in campaign level because we are actually gonna set budget within ad set level. And the reason you'd set something up in ad set level is to have more even spend, especially when you start duplicating, adding additional ad sets. By having it hard coded within ad set level itself will allow you to get proper testing done. Because if you do campaign level, it A B tests creatives to where your original creative may get $50 a day spend, and then your brand new creative that Meta doesn't see as a winner essentially won't get as much attention because we've allowed campaign level to decide that for us, and it can ultimately mess with our metrics. All right, so starting at the top, let's run through this. So first off, immediately uncheck Messenger. We need this to be just on Instagram, assuming that you've applied your previous platform targeting with the top of funnel traffic campaign to Instagram as well. Granted, if you're a Facebook user, obviously this will be Facebook though. Yep, and then on budget, I guess it reset, but I'm just gonna do $50 for this example. I recommend if you're starting out on this, maybe $30 a day. If you don't have a lot of buying power, this isn't the right campaign for you. This is the campaign to get leads, don't get me wrong, but you need a couple $100 in order to do it. So, all right, then we got audience controls. We don't need to mess with this yet. As you can see, Advantage Plus, like I was saying earlier, is forced to be on. So we're gonna click switch to original audience, use original audience. So the reason I moved myself over is because this audience definition, explained this in the last video as well, but it's so important to look at. So right now we have way too broad of an audience, too small of an audience, anything under 1 million. That being said, though, actually engagement campaigns you could get away with being in the hundreds of thousands, just because we're going to be doing some more specific targeting. So custom audience, if you remember, like we just set, this is where you could set your 30-day engagers, assuming you're doing a middle of funnel strategy. And just to give you an idea of how to frame your top of funnel, you have to add an exclusion for 30-day engagers, if that makes sense. So top of funnel, add 30 days as an exclusion, or add engagers in general, whatever time frame you're doing. And then middle of funnel, add 30-day engagers as the inclusion. And the reason you do this is so fresh faces are the main goal of top of funnel. And then as soon as someone engages, boom, we throw them in the back basically to middle funnel. We throw them in middle funnel. But the reason you have to add these inclusions, exclusions is because otherwise you're going to get creative exhaustion in the top of funnel where the same bodies are going to keep seeing it because they've engaged with it because, in Meta's eyes, they're like, oh, cool, they keep engaging with us. It's good to send this to them. Hopefully they can convert. But people end up seeing the same freaking ad like 4 or 5 times and no one wants that. So that being said, also the reason I was kind of explaining this whole ad set level and duplicating them and having even spend in between these is because at the very least, we're going to need to load up several different creatives within creative level. You can start with just one, that's fine, but over time, I highly recommend adding 3, 4 into your middle of funnel to avoid creative exhaustion in general. Because otherwise, if you're doing top of funnel, and yeah, it may not be in creative exhaustion because you have your engage your exclusion, so it's only hitting new faces. But then you'd run into an issue if you're just running one middle of funnel creative where that's going to get exhausted because the same engagers are going to see the same ad. So I like to switch it up, add a few different ones. Just variants also help with overall creative testing to find a winner out of the set. But if you can find a good consistent bunch, then it really helps to diversify things. It makes for a better user experience so they don't feel like they're being sold or it's not nearly as salesy. It's a lot more of a softer sell and they don't even realize it. It's just like a psychology thing at that point. So think about it this way. You see the same ad over and over. You're going to get sick of it. You're like, oh my God, this guy, I've seen him again. Or you're seeing 4 different ads. So it's at least some new content for all the people with TikTok brains. And so you're like, oh yeah, like I've been seeing this guy around. Yeah, I'm gonna see what this is about. It's like third time I've seen like 3 of his ads now. They're looking solid. I'm gonna see what this is about. Anyways, so for this example, let's say I'm a fitness coach. Let's just throw some fitness stuff in there. Switch the gender out. All right, so if you're looking here, honestly, this is still a little too broad for an engagement campaign. We want to get a little more specific. So if you've exhausted all your ideas of target audience you can think of, you can also click suggestions and it'll show you similarly related fields based on the metrics that you've already put into the audience. So essentially what I'm doing now is just kind of coupling stuff together to make a more specific target audience. So as you can see now, we added a bunch of similar different interests for Meta to go with. So now we can edit age to kind of clean up that demographic as well. Let's say I'm helping men over 40, so older men. Another thing also, be wary of 65 plus if you're doing online sales because you're gonna have such a big issue with like older people not understanding how to hop on calls and stuff, let alone be sold on a call on a high ticket offer. So 57, 58, something like that, I've seen work well if you're working with people over 40, for instance. So check it out. So demographics dropped perfect. So the reason I stripped the inclusion before I actually threw this in is because once I throw this in, it's going to significantly drop. All right. So it's doing that because now it's scanning for my engagers, for my ads and my followers, and all this different information. So the idea behind this is because it's coming from your ad, it's going to be relevant people regardless. So Meta is going to take precedence to targeting these engagers. Then after that, it's going to see this mixed bag of target audiences we have and start testing there. That being said, not as much ad spend budget is really needed for a middle of funnel campaign because after Meta exhausts this, they're going to be just trying to find new people anyways. And finding new people will end up being more expensive cost per clicks than we'd like. So what we can do then is solve this problem by having a lower ad spend budget per day. So, now that I'm thinking about $50 is a little pricey. It really it's a ratio thing also. Like if your top of funnel is $500, then $50 isn't that crazy. But if your top of funnel is, let's say, 75 bucks, I'd throw 15, 20 here, for instance, right? You need to ratio it so top of funnel is getting significantly more ad spend because this is going to be essentially the vacuum to get people into your tank, and then you retarget people in your tank that you've gotten from top of funnel, right? It's all a seamless transition. And then, of course, having a perfect ecosystem, being able to tell a story when people come over to your page is also essential because you'll be able to also get clients directly from your top of funnel traffic campaigns sometimes. Sometimes people are just an absolute bank shot and you can just easily close them as a client. All right, now Advantage Plus placements, we are not going to go with that. We're going to click into manual placements. Okay, good. So here it's auto-checked Instagram. Sometimes Facebook will be auto-checked as well. But yeah, it's looking good there. I don't really recommend switching any of these checks because Meta does a good job of deciding where it goes. So if you're running a still frame, it'll do its thing. It'll show up wherever it needs. And same goes for Reel. And what I mean by whatever it needs is the Meta will test this. So let's say stories are converting really well. They're going to push stories hard for you. Or if casual feed or explore page is going well, then they're going to push that for you even more. All right, so now into creative level. Super straightforward. So if you have an existing post on your Insta, then use existing posts. You're going to select it from there. If not, throw your media directly in here. Again, I recommend diversification, but because paid ads is such a numbers game, if you're going to switch up the variables of the creative itself, then keep the caption the same, assuming it's about the same topic. And that's because if you have one caption here, one creative here, and one creative over here, one caption here, it gets so hard to identify a winner or really even understand the metrics that are taking place and what's winning, what's not, so that we can improve it. So by keeping at least a base control that's the copy itself, then once you've got an ad winner, then you can start playing around with copy again, or vice versa. You could run the same ad creative and have several different pieces of copy and test out which copy is going to win as well. Pro tip though, if you're going to do testing like that, then do a traffic campaign because cost per results are cheaper. I always recommend my clients and even for myself to creative test only in traffic campaigns because you can literally spend like 10, 15 bucks per creative that you're testing against each other and at least identify it from a very surface level which creative was the clear winner from that set so you can bring that one on to the next phase. Especially if you're on a budget, I recommend this. Don't just throw an ad campaign up, slap a budget on it, and then see how it performs in the next few days if you're a beginner because it'll likely fail. Good for you if it doesn't, but this is a very much experienced kind of industry. Experienced meaning there's a bit of a learning curve at first if you don't know what you're looking for. Okay, so once your ad creative's actually added, scroll down to message templates and click edit. So once people actually click the send message button, so this is going to be the send message button here that gets prompted for people to DM, or if it's on a story, it's going to be here. So we now need people to DM us. So what's going to happen? So if someone clicks the send message link at the bottom of the post, it prompts them over to the DMs, but they still have to pull the trigger. They have not sent you the trigger word yet. So you can write a little message here. So let's say I'm a fitness coach. Okay, so I just typed this up. Hey, DM me fitness and I'll send over my free training. So now there's going to be an auto-generated text that the user gets sent immediately, and then they'll be like, oh, okay. So if it wasn't already obvious enough from your creative itself to DM you fitness, or if it wasn't obvious enough from your actual caption to DM you fitness, then we also have this line of defense for them to actually DM fitness. And then it says question, but I hate the way they laid this out, because literally, like in the question, you have to write the word fitness, and that's to prompt the user just to have to click a button. Yes, they can type it up too, but they can also now just click a button and it auto sends fitness. And then ideally, you have a backend trigger set up. Like for my company, we have a backend CRM that's plugged into this. So anytime a user sends us that trigger word, we send over the lead magnet, and then an AI appointment setter tries to book them onto a sales call. But yeah, for this one, delete all the other questions. We literally only need one. Make sure to name it something. January example, we're just going to put that and then click save. And then bam. So now anytime someone inquires, they know they have to DM you fitness. And if they still don't understand from the copy and the creative itself, then there's at least a prompt there. And if you are going to duplicate a campaign, I just duplicated one here, for creative testing. Make sure that the proper template is selected. So there's a drop down. So since I saved that last one and they gave it a name, so here's one of my other ones, DME AI. That's a live one I have. But so January example, right? So just make sure that's collected and you'll be good to go there. All right, y'all. That's all for me. I know I did a lot of yapping today, but I hope you found some value in this. This is a very straightforward campaign, but the actual multiplier potential is there. As I showed you guys before, we're getting some results off of only a couple hundred spent. And since these screenshots have been taken, we've dropped thousands of dollars and we're seeing our return. If you have high ticket, meaning something over $1,000, this is how you get high intent clients to come to you, DM you. That way you have the authority. You're not sending them a measly cold DM looking weak as hell, but instead you actually have people reaching out to you for help. So this really helps to build authority too. Again, you have to have initial buying power. So this is really for people that actively have a business running. They're not trying to do a startup, but they have some money to work with and they're willing to invest. This is going to get you to where you need to go as fast as possible because it's on-demand traffic. And lastly, if you're an online coach, consultant, or agency owner currently above 3K monthly revenue, my company guarantees 30 booked calls in the next 90 days of working with us. And if we don't get you those 30 calls, then you don't pay. That being said, I'm going to leave my booking link down below if you're curious to see how we can do paid ads, appointment setter integrations, backend CRM strategy to take you to the next level with strategy. But please only book in if you're serious and ready to scale, because we only work with highly motivated people that are here for it and ready to put in the work. And on that note, keep on hustling.